Hello and welcome to the final day of Eternal Weekend North America 2023. My name is Julian Knapp, I'm here with Kaiser Vatari, and
What's up,
today
everyone?
we are ready to crown the final two champions of the Eternal Weekend season. The final two people to get their hands on amazing promos and take it all the way to the top. Today, we're first gonna go into two more rounds of Legacy. Legacy has been this popular. We had around 1,000 players. We needed to split it up into 2 days. And that's why we need to cut down the final 24 players still in competition for the top 8 to make it all the way to the top 8. Kai and I are going to take you to 2 more rounds of Legacy. From there, we're going to take a cut. We're going to go over to the single elimination in Vintage, followed by the top 8 in Legacy. I'm super excited to bring you all of this. I'm surely going to be watching for the rest of the day. This is one of the final weekends of Eternal Weekend. We had Europe, we had a champion in Asia, and now we're ready to crown the champion in North America. So let's check out which kind of prizes are on the line. Because of course there's fame, but there's glory, and then there's the painting. If you get first place in Eternal Weekend, you get one of the most unique, one-of-a-kind things you can not only own in Legacy, in Eternal, but in Magic as a whole. There's an amazing arcade post lightning bolt painting. It's giant. It's almost as tall as Kai. You can get your hand on. And if you make top 8, you also get a special token. It's called the Dragon Rage Channeler from Patrick Hell. And that's probably one of the most collectible things in the world. There's only 24 copies, and we have 24 players who are still trying to get their hands on this. On top of that, also, Kai, there's a little bit of money on the line, right? You can get your hands on $4,000 for first place, second place, also $2,000 and $1,000 for the rest of the top 8, and even all the way down to 128th place. So lots more Magic to play. Altogether, 5,000 matches. There's a couple more to be played today before we make it all the way to the top 8. But where does all of this come from? So let's see who are the fine folks behind all of this. We have Card Titan, who are bringing us all of this. We got Game Genic, who are also supporting all of this. You can use the code Eternal Weekend 2023 for 10% off your order. And for Game Genic, it's the same code. For Card Titan, you still got until the end of the month. And Game Genic, by the way, I'm using one of the deck boxes. This is hashtag not sponsored personally. Love the deck box. Check it out. And that one only runs until the end of the day. So make sure to get that one. We already mentioned we want to cut down to 8 players. In order for that, you basically need to either win out or maybe even draw your way into the top 8. Right now, there's nobody guaranteed. And now look at this. Look at this. This is Jay Wojciechowski. And Kai, do you remember that name? Does that name ring a bell?
This name definitely rings a bell. Jay won the Eternal Weekend last year with Blue Red Delver. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that just Jay shows up and he's the only undefeated, clean 9-0 player going into the 10th round of this gigantic Swiss tournament. And he picked up a similar deck to the deck he played last year. Maybe you guys remember it was like an Expressive Iteration era last year with Druid Delver. This year, it's Bowmaster time. It's Grixis Delver. You see Bookish Bowmaster, but also like the really new tech of Molten Collapse as an additional removal spell, Sauron's Ramson, and also 2 copies of Stifle. So we see like a lot of new stuff and old stuff combined. Stifle is definitely not a card you see in every Delver deck, so I'm really stoked about this deck.
Okay, you know what I want to call Stifle? Stifle is the card that just won't die. Like, everybody writes tweets, articles, what have you, about Stifle not being good enough for Legacy anymore. Then Jay shows up on close to back-to-back top 8s in Eternal Weekends. Like, yeah, you know what? Let me teach you something about Legacy. Stifle, apparently still a card. I hope we see it in action. Always makes for great games. As long as we don't, blow somebody out on the fetch lands. I want to see the application for this. On the other side of the board, let's check this one out. We got Sean Sabia. And Sean is playing, I want to say a favorite deck of mine, very much my favorite deck. This one, this is an archetype I've pushed for a lot. It's very similar to what I also play in Legacy. In fact, there's only, at least in the main deck, 2 changes from what I play. It is Painter. Painter recently picked up the addition of white to play not only Swords to Plowshares, but also 4th Erlangers. And pretty much all people I've talked to who are playing 4th, they feel like, my god, this has taken the deck to a completely new level. It's giving you both on like the tactical level, a lot more toys that the opponent doesn't expect, but also it allows you to play an even grindier game in many ways. As I say that, I spot grindstone. And I'm so excited to see this one in action. This has been one of the most influential recent additions to Legacy. And if you never seen Painter in action, you would think, okay, the basic level is we got Paint the Servant down, turn everything a single color, and grind out the opponent. This might or might not happen. In fact, I want to say over 50% of times you just get there on the beatdown, which makes it so hard for the opponent to navigate. So let's see how Che faces up against this kind of deck. It's always one of the trickier decks to really grasp where you are at in the matchup, and whether he can execute any. Dude, as we talked about Stifle, you know what's one of the worst feelings in the world? When you activate your Goblin Engineer, you sacrifice your artifact, and then it gets stifled.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah, sure, I'll take that. You sacrifice your stuff. It's my turn now.
I wanna see that. I wanna see Stifle in action. Come on, like you gotta give me some good old spice with the Stifle. There are also a couple of fetch lands in the Painter deck list. This is like a really classical matchup too, where it's not really clear who the winner is. Like Jay has to navigate through the combo, the grindstone combo, but also like the very powerful secondary fair plan with Saga tokens and like Fluorescent Dragon engines, Chaos Defiler, things like that.
Yeah, Chaos Defiler especially is an interesting one, right? Still not available in Magic Online, projected to be there in hopefully a couple of weeks, maybe early next year. So not as many people actually have reps playing against Chaos Defiler. It's not the most influential card. It's like it's pretty clear what it does, but it hits like a truck, and it does so twice.
Oh,
so
totally.
let's see if Sean is going to be able to do that. Jay sitting here on what looks to be a pretty standard Grixis Diver hand. Probably going to deploy Dragon Age Channel here, right? Running out the bauble. You know, it's kind of funny, right? If we went back 10, 15 years in Legacy and we told people, hey, Mishra's Bauble, that's the card. You know, everybody's playing that. We're like, what? So what about Tarmogoyf? We're like, he didn't make it. We're sorry.
Mishra's Bauble.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about Mishra's Bauble these days. Dragon Age Channel deployed, Bauble. Probably, I was going to say, probably going to put almost anything into the graveyard right now just to fill it up. Maybe get Delirium as soon as the second turn. And passing over to Sean. I'm so excited. Like, Paint is capable of insanely explosive starts, but a lot of times, especially in tempo matchups, it's better to conserve your mana and play a little less explosive in order to not like completely expose yourself to dazes and Force of Worlds.
Yeah, this is like a really interesting like strategy point. Like, does Boros Painter try to be the aggro deck here, or does it want to play like the control deck and use the Pyroblast as removal spells for Murktide regions? Like, how do you usually play or see this matchup?
Well, I very much think that Painter's the control deck here. Painter has a lot of removal spells. You, especially like the Murktide region, that's one of the tricky ones. You got your Swords to Plowshares here. You also got, in Sean's case, I think only 4 blasts. That's one of the changes I noticed. But here's the thing. Sean is playing a card that Che hates to go up against. Not only Che, but basically any diver deck, I would think, at least in the first game. And that's Ensnaring Bridge. So if Sean can either like naturally draw or tutor for the bridge and get into play, it's going to be a real uphill battle for Che. He's got 2 copies of Brazen Borrower to try and take it out and swing for like 1 lethal attack. And other than that, I think you could also trying to figure out. Now, there's not really anything else in the main deck that you can use to get rid of the bridge. So sometimes, you know, it turns into a weird game of Protect the Queen, right? Where you get your bridge down, and then you're sitting there on 4 Pyroblasts, and you're trying to counter the 2 Brazen Borrows that Che has access to. But we'll see whether the game develops into something like that. Oh my god, look, dude, check this out.
What a flex.
Oh, you see that Ponder? That's one of those 24 in the world. There's only 24 copies of this particular Ponder, and I would bet that that's the one that Che won last year.
Dude, imagine showing up to Eternal Weekend, you're undefeated, you're one of the 2 last undefeated players, and you just casually drop a Ponder like this.
That's just amazing, dude. That's absolutely amazing. I was wondering whether at some point we would introduce something like, I don't know, Super Bowl rings or something, so you could like show up to the tournament, show off all your wins. But yeah, the Ponder is the closest thing Magic has to that.
Oh my goodness. Like, imagine if Jay also adds like one of those Dragon's Rage channelers for next year. Oh my goodness.
Oh, you could still do it in the deck.
Yeah.
You could absolutely do that. Oh, that's great. I'm absolutely loving that. So, on the other side of the board, Sean, playing a lot of these promo painters. He's also got a beautiful Lotus Petal, making sure to play around Daystar. Didn't use the Soul Guide Lantern to try to get rid of. Actually, he did, right? I think those
Yeah,
upside down ones.
he nuked the graveyard. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this play. Like, not trying to be greedy and drawing cards, but like making sure that you don't die. Like, if you're basically the concept of Penta being the control deck, if that's the case here, then you want to do everything to delay Jay's gameplay, right? Like look at this, like the Penta Servant being an excellent blocker versus those Dragon's Weight channelers.
At least for now, right? We're pretty close. Right now, Jay, from what we see, if he keeps this kind of these cards, puts back the Bowmaster, and I think something else, he probably doesn't have an attack this turn, unless he wants to use the Petty Theft on the Brazen Borrower, which he might. There's a good case to be made here, right? If you can actually enable Delirium again, you can crack in for 6 damage. And I think Jay, especially with a hand like this, probably very much understands that he's supposed to be the aggro deck here. And I can very much see that. So curious how that's going to make. Those are like some of the tougher decisions that you have to make, because you understand that like Petty Theft is not really supposed to randomly gain you a little bit of tempo. But in a situation like this, the tempo advantage might be so overwhelming that you're very much willing to do that. Because of course, in the end, it's card disadvantage. But you're like, okay, Sorum Sonsum to the graveyard, Farce of Fill, don't need that.
Ooh, okay.
And let's crash in there. Only for 2 points of damage, though. He was certainly hoping to hit like an artifact, a creature, something like that.
So for Sean, it must be like a big message, right? If Jay mills both Sauron's Ramson and Force of Will, like both cards don't seem terrible in this situation. Like they're both castable. Also, Force of Will is kind of great versus like a quote unquote combo deck, but if he decides to mill those 2 cards, like Sean must be thinking there's probably another Force sitting in Jay's hand somewhere.
Yeah, very much so. Stifle goes to graveyard. So Jay has one big problem. He knows that he's gonna be dead in 3 turns from now. He needs to find a wasteland for the Urza Saga or a way to deal with the Painter, because knowing that Sean already has Painter in hand, and Jay, as of now, only has a days to try to fight against it, the Urza Saga 2 turns from now will find a Grindstone, which will mill Jay out. I guess he could also find a removal spell for the Painter. So he has quite a few outs, but he needs to find them or kill Sean in time, which without Delirium is gonna be a tall order there. What do we have over there? Oh, that's the Adventure Zone. Dude, Kai, you make tokens, right? Can you create an Adventure Zone token?
It's already on my to-do list. I will definitely
really?
do one. Yeah, it's already on my to-do list. Probably for 2024.
Oh, I'm gonna get. You know, my Painter deck is completely pimped out with all of your stuff. I love that.
Thank you. That's awesome, dude. All right. So, welcome back, Painter. This is like the masterpiece Painter, I believe.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You can
it's
almost
either masterpiece or Invocation.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you can almost make your whole Painter deck like masterpieces.
Yeah, I think there's also like they recently. Oh, there's a masterpiece Grindstone, and this is the card that Jay needed. This is very much the card that Jay needed. You can take out the Painter right away. So now we're gonna see whether Sean is holding a something like a Pyroblast, right? I might have even seen a second copy of Painter in his hand. It's really hard to tell. Because if he has a second copy of Painter, then the Daze in Jay's hand could do something. We will see in a moment.
And there was a Lightning Bolt on upkeep, right?
It looks like it, right? To basically filter your deck even further, because Jay very much knows which kind of cards are gonna help Sean. And if there's none of them, he's very willing to remove them. So yeah, Sean, do you have that second Painter I might have spied in your hand? Gonna float the mana, probably find the Grindstone.
Oh, this is the magic moment. This is like where everything comes down.
Yeah. We also need another mana source to actually make it work, because I think Jay is still sitting on the days we heard. Oh yeah, it's the Grindstone. Okay. Knowing that he's dead next turn, I think that must mean he's holding the second Painter, and then there's a land!
There's a land! Oh my goodness!
Oh, does Jay have another removal spell? He's only got the days. He probably might daze anyway, but it won't do anything. He's like, sure, you got it. Activate.
Oh man, and Sean can't activate this like fast enough. Oh my goodness, and Sean takes the first game after such an aggressive start from Jay. And Like after milling so many important cards like Force Will Ponder, like Sounds Ramson, like it looked really intimidating, I think. But yeah.
We only really got to touch on it very briefly. The critical play of the game, the critical decision of this game actually came down to Force of Willing, that Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Because that's the one that otherwise could have gone on the painter. It's so hard to make that call though. And it's like with the power of hindsight, we would be like, oh yeah, sure, you keep it, you go for the painter. No, I mean that's not how you're successful in Magic, right? So this is the one critical situation, and it could have gone either way. And yeah, we'll take a look at the deck list here. What are we gonna do? Okay, there's an amazing card. Another card from Warhammer 40k. We got Cannon Tech Scarab Swarm in the sideboard, and that's a card we sometimes see in Painter, right? I'm pretty sure it's also not a Magic Online, so it's one of those rare cards. It's 4 mana, 1/1, flying, and you take out the opponent's entire graveyard, and for every land and artifact you remove, you get a 1/1 flying insect token. And that card can be so annoying, let me tell you. Not only do you take out the graveyard, which the deck Grixis ever heavily relies on, you also hit the artifacts and the lands, of which they have both, so you get a lot of flying chump blockers, for example, from Murktide Regent. So this card alone can buy you so much time. I'm not sure if that's actually how the games play out, because I've never played with it. They might get rid of their graveyard with Murktide Regent before Scarab Swarm becomes a thing, but I'd love to see it in action. Other than that, people bring in a Braid. Braid can sometimes hit Null Rod, especially if you don't know whether the opponent is playing that. Also taking out random divers and Dragon Rage channelers. And then there's another copy. Nothing I'm too excited about. I guess 2 Thorn of Amethysts. I'm not too big of a fan of them on the draw, but we will see. We will see whether those are going to come in. Main deck already pretty good against them, so let's see what Sean brought to the table for Game 2. He's 1 win away from potentially nearly locking up top 8, but the one card, and we see it in Chase hand, that the entire matchup revolves around post-board, is Meltdown. Recently, I saw some people that there was like some discussion on Twitter the other day where some really good Magic pros who like picked up Legacy for this weekend, because this is one of the most exciting tournaments of the week, of the year. They were like, why is there Meltdown? Why is everybody even like sometimes splashing for Meltdown? Is there nothing better? As far as we know, no. Meltdown is the make or break it card for the matchup, because a lot of times, in order to catch up, Delver really needs that reset button, because otherwise Delver, Boros Painter might just run away with the game. And we will see how Jay will use it. Is he going to use it early on to gain a little bit of tempo? Is he going to try to quote-unquote get Sean by using a really big Meltdown? All I know for now is that he didn't have a turn 1 creature, which, if you're on the other side of the board when you're playing against Delver, you're always happy to see that, right, Kai?
Oh, absolutely. I think Jay is looking for a red land here. Like I can see a Dragon's Fate Channeler, and the Meltdown itself is also like a red card. And this is like where playing a 3-color deck sometimes bites you, right? Like most of the time your mana works out, but there are situations where you end up having like the 2 quote-unquote wrong colors, like the Underground Sea not tapping for red might be kind of critical here.
Yeah, very much so. So we see a Wasteland there. We see a Delver, which is probably going to go onto the board next turn. But it looks like, yeah, I guess since we are like quote-unquote brainstorm locked,
we have the I guess we have the Lorien revealed. Okay, I mean that's basically cheating.
That's basically a fetch, right? Do you think we're gonna see an upkeep Lorien revealed here?
We might. It's a nice way to shuffle the library. But again, like this Wasteland just sitting there, also not terrible. We are still playing against an Ursa Saga deck, and Wasteland might have a lot of value later in the game.
Oh, dude, look at this one. I think that's a Judge for Goblin Welder. Was super old card. It's Beautiful. Literally one of my favorite cards in all of Magic. It has so many tricks that you can pull with this one. And Delver faces off against the old school Goblin.
Yeah.
No upkeep cycle. I guess we wanted to draw the Delver anyway. I can very much see that.
It's like my best 1-drop versus your best 1-drop. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go fight. Sean running out that painter. You know, it's interesting which color you actually name. A lot of times you name blue, but then there are situations, especially in closed decklist, which the Swiss portion of this tournament still is, you might sometimes name black, so you turn off your opponent's snuff outs, should they have it.
Ooh.
especially with only 4 blasts in Sean's deck, and them being it's black. It looks like it's black. Ooh, I really
Yeah.
appreciate him putting that under there to make sure that we understand which color has been named. And
Also, look at this attack. Like, what do you think about this attack here, Goblin
I like
Welder?
it. I like it a lot. A lot of times you just attack with it if you feel like you want to alleviate the pressure, and especially if you got a follow-up goblin. You're basically saying, okay, this is a 1-mana removal spell for your Java. If you're willing to make that trade, I'm offering it up. And it looks like both players are fine with trading their 1-drops here.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, but like it also underlines the role in the matchup, right? Like Sean, like if Sean also post board is the control player, then I can definitely see like why you want to trade with the potential aggressive Delver secrets.
By the way, I was wondering. So we dazed the Goblin Welder in order to potentially force Sean to crack his fetch land. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And Sean decided not to crack his fetch land.
No, I think
just
it
have
got
the Goblin Welder dazed.
I think it got forced in the pitch days.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
I'm so happy.
close enough though. Close enough though.
There's always this tricky play where you can like wasteland a fetch and response to the activation, you daze the spell. But yeah, if you have Force of Will available, you do that. Honestly, as a painter player going up against a deck with Orcish Bowmasters, I'm always happy to see that. And Shay showing a lot of respect to the painter, literally using this as a 3-mana removal spell, saying nope, no painters here, because Sean might just untap into the win. And that's, if I'm sitting on Sean's side of the board, that kind of like makes me think, oh, Shay is like shields down. He probably doesn't have another Force of Will. Not too much I can do with that information right now, but we're running out the Aether's One Canonist, which honestly, against cantrip heavy decks, that card can be so annoying. Like, you won't believe how annoying that card can be at times. And sometimes it's literally just a hate bearer.
All right, if both players on a single creature. Life totals are also relatively high, given that it's already turn 4-ish, I think.
That sounds right.
And we can definitely see here, like the Wasteland on Jay's side, like it's basically reserved for Oster Saga, I believe. Like mana screwing now is probably a little bit too late. And nice, okay. Sean going with the Swords of Plowshares after the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Maybe starting the beats here, but you gotta be careful though. Like they are Orcish Bowmasters, right? And like if they get flashed in,
yeah,
might be.
But at the same time, I think you're actually happy to make that trade, and I think you also can already like deduce that there's no Orcish Bowmasters in Shay's hand because Shay Force of Will that second Goblin Welder, right? If
good call.
he was holding Bowmasters, he'd be happy to let that run reserve. And here comes another painter, probably naming Black again. Yep. And passing the turn. And Shay, yeah, you can already very clearly see Shay puts a lot of respect on trying to fight the painter, like the combo version of the deck. And that's one of the great things about these a lot more mid-range focused versions of painter. Your opponent still has to respect your combo oh so much, but a lot of times you don't even have it. Like I say we, right? I identify as a painter player. This is like, I guess I used to be the elf guy, but now I'm very much in the painter seat. Okay. I love how we can really only like run sometimes even a single copy of Grindstone. It's not rare for me to sometimes side it out. I think Sean might do the same at times, and just go for the mid-range approach. Shay once again taking out the Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer that puts. Kai, help us out. This is Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Do you know what the backside of Phyrexian Dragon Engine is?
I didn't even know that it has a backside, so you tell me.
No. See, I'm very much into playing Paint. I've been playing it almost exclusively for 1.5 years, and I don't even know what the backside is called, and I think I've only seen it twice in my entire life. But chat can certainly help us out. It's never going to become relevant. Like, literally never. But so one day, maybe.
It was a clever choice putting Phyrexian Dragon Engine into the graveyard, because that card doesn't require a goblin to be in play, right? It has Unearth attached to its body, so whenever Sean is flooded, like he can activate the Unearth ability, which can be stifled actually.
It can be
But
stifled, in which case I think it just remains in the graveyard and you can try again. I would think at least. It rarely comes up. But so the look at Sean just running out dragons and stuff, or in this case Furies, like just like big stuff. I got 5 mana. Yeah, here's my big thing, Jay. What you got? What you got? Jay's sitting there on a Brazen Boros, probably able to bounce that Fury, and he might even have to. But without any kind of offense, right? And that's very often the downfall of Java decks. If they cannot put on pressure early, all of their removal, all of their tempo plays, they don't really get you anywhere because these kind of decks rarely ever have card advantage. And as we see here, Jay just keeps trading 1-for-1, while Sean has access to a Phyrexian Dragon Engine that's going to give him a draw 3 and like so many other synergistic cards that Jay is in a really, really tough spot there. Let's see how much Jay is going to try to respect that Painter. I think he has Force of Will, but nah. I think at this point you have to make tough choices and let that one resolve. I can see that.
Right, totally. Like sitting back the whole time as a tempo deck might not work out for the entirety of this game, right? Because like we are at a point where all the heavy drops on the Painter side can be hard casted.
Oh,
like,
here we go! Here we go!
Is
Scarab Swarm.
Is this the? Oh my goodness! I mean, you gotta force it, right? Like, you have to force this.
It might put lethal on the battlefield all by itself, so you really have to take it out. So Jay here sitting, for Jay it's a game of can I find my 5th land? And he does, as well as Dragon Rage Channel. So I would guess he will be happy to maybe take that Ponder, dig a little bit deeper, and try to make the Dragon Rage Channel and following it up with the Fury to take out the Painter next turn. I think that's a reasonable sequence of plays, but I mean, he's at least one-time Eternal Weekend champion. So if anybody knows better, then it's probably him.
I mean, Jay's probably really interested in hard casting that Fury next turn. So I'd be surprised to see like at least like this is definitely not a shuffle, I think. Like he's probably wanna take the Delta here, floating like a Ponder. Dragon's Way Chandler is also a decent pickup, but Dragon's Way Chandler
I think you picked that one up right away, right? Just to cast it.
Okay. Alright. That's fair. That's fair.
But now Sean, of course, has a lot of ways to deal with this. He doesn't really need the Painter. The Fury on offense could be a little bit annoying, but then again, he also has the Swords to Plowshares. Now he's gonna make the call. Like, so from Sean's side of the board, he kind of wants to get rid of the cards in his hand so he can fully utilize the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. So he might be more willing to trade 1-for-1 here, and he uses the Abrade, which is great for him because now he's got access to the Swords to Plowshares next turn. And little does he know that Jay is sitting on a Fury he very much wants to connect with. Heading down to Nord's Saga, making it even harder for Jay to come back into the game there. And Jay drops down to 5. And the next sequence of events are pretty much scripted. We got Fury taking out Painter, then Jay goes up to 8 again on the Swords to Plowshares, and then Sean is gonna make 2 tokens, which might actually just go all the way, because we know Jay is empty-handed. Hellbent, just drawing from the top. Best thing you can find is probably, well, I was gonna say a Meltdown, but you already used that one, and his deck does not have access to a Mystic Sanctuary as far as I'm aware. Oh, that's gonna be a rough one for Jay to still take down. He's got some chances, but with Sean still sitting like, oh my god, on a healthy grip of cards, one of them being Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer. Oh man, this might have just not be the day. But actually, if Jay loses this one, he's still in competition, right?
He's the only 9-0, so he has a little bit of wiggle room here. I'm wondering now, like, with Jay being on such a low life total, do you still go for the combo here, or do you just try to
like the combo is a complete afterthought. I think one way to lose might be to like over focus on the combo, but it's actually slower, if not as slow as just like going for the beatdown, and going for the beatdown is a lot safer here. So yeah, Sean just picks up a construct here. How big is that one gonna be? I think it's just a 1-1 right now. It's gonna turn to a 3-3 on the next turn. So it's up to Sean. Like, let's say we get the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. If we get enough mana, We might actually be able to kill next turn. Yeah, we got enough mana to do that. Assuming you find a land or something. Because the Phyrexian Dragon Engine, if it comes in via the combo, it gains haste.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. And it's double strike.
Yeah. And it also grows the construct. That's why I was thinking maybe we get the Dragon Engine from the graveyard.
Oh,
and hit for
you're
lethal
right.
Here. Yeah. But of course, we forego the option to make a second construct, and if something goes wrong, then we missed out on that second construct. But Jay might be going out of this game, of this match, but not of the tournament, by playing what might be his final card of the match.
I mean,
his Eternal Weekend 2023 Ponder.
I mean, he has to find a meltdown here, right?
And that one's in the graveyard. That one's... I think he's only playing a single copy of Meltdown. You're right, he's got a second copy of Meltdown.
Yeah, that's the second copy. Come on, Ponder.
The problem is, if we find the Meltdown, we're still dead. Because Phyrexian Dragon Engine plus Goblin Engineer is exactly 5 points of damage. And look at the life total that Jay's sitting at. Even if we find the random Meltdown from the top, it's not going to be good enough. Jay passes the turn. Representing, hey, maybe I got something. You dare to attack me? You dare to attack me?
Oh my goodness, and Jay picks up his very first loss here in round number 10. And Sean Sabia is the last undefeated player in this gigantic legacy tournament. Congratulations! That's insane. What an incredible match we just saw live on camera here in round number 10.
Moving on to 9-0-1, there's a good chance that Sean might either be able to draw in or even be in with a loss. Let's see how that works out in the next round. But what a match. I absolutely love seeing Painter in action, and I can't get enough of it. By the way, the most represented deck in the top 16 of this tournament. I think there's like 3 copies in the top 18 or something. Amazing deck. Let's go to the backup feature match. And we got somebody who should be very familiar for all of you. Check this out. You might have heard this name before, right? Brian Cook, does that ring a bell? Host of the Eternal Glory podcast, top 8 at GP Columbus 2010, playing the very same deck. Creator, founder, maker of this deck, legacy legend. Kai, have you played the Epic Storm before?
I did try the Epic Storm like many years ago. I think like 2013 or so. It was a very different deck back then, and like seeing Brian on his signature deck doing so well this tournament this really means something, right? It's incredible. We haven't seen the Epic Storm in many weeks and months, I think, in larger tournaments, but here he is and fighting for the top 8 spot. Really nice.
Yeah, if you were to pick one person to take this all the way to the top 8, everybody would be saying Brian, right? And he's very close to it. He's going up against his opponent, Griffin Thundervan. I think we've seen Griffin earlier in the week, like yesterday, playing this very same deck. Lance, also known as one of the most iconic decks of the format. Unfortunately for Griffin here, it's not the best matchup he's going up against, right? If you're playing Lance, if you're 2 rounds away from making the top 8 of Eternal Weekend, the Epic Storm is probably one of the last matchups you want to face in the entire room. So what do you think how would things to play out for Griffin to maybe take the match here?
So Lance is a deck that punishes a lot of those dual land heavy fair decks, right? Like Delver, mid-range decks, because you can get a lot of wastelands into play, waste all their stuff, drop a Karakas to basically kill all the creatures, stuff like that. What Lance doesn't do is to disrupt combo decks. It can, if in the combination with Wastelands and maybe the Sphere of Resistance. That's an interesting take here. Crop Rotation also can get a Bojuka Bog to maybe like nuke the graveyard if the opponent is on a Reanimator strategy. Brian Cook, though, not as much of a graveyard deck, I want to say. It's more like an ad nauseum Galvanic Relay deck, right?
Yeah, it has some graveyard lines, including Gaia as well, but a lot of times he doesn't really need to expose himself to that. So we are going to see how this plays out. By the way, Kai, do you know why it's called the Epic Storm?
Oh, because it's epic? I don't know. I always thought is
this the level of marketing we have going for in the deck? No, it's deeper.
Oh, I thought that Tendrils of Agony is cool, and then the Grape Shot is like double the work, so it's epic.
I love that. Okay, maybe we'll retcon the name. No. So back in the day, in like a land before time, and with legacy teams around, like I guess the New England era, there was a team called Epic that Brian was a part of, and I think that's how it plays. So anybody correct me if that's wrong, but I'm 99% sure on that. And they also played other Epic decks. There was not only the Epic Storm. We also had decks like the one I remember is the Epic Elf Survival, back when Survival of the Fittest was still legal in the format. So all of their decks were epic, but
Very
only one of
epic.
them survived to this very day.
All right, let's see if Brian Cook can play against Epic Lands here in this this game. The winner will probably make it into the top 8. Could be almost locked here. Brian Cook also, for everyone who doesn't know, has a complete pimped out deck. It's all Japanese foil, signed, I believe. All the dual lands are black bordered. It's the absolute. You can't do better than this, right? Like, this is the ultimate end goal as a collector and is someone who really has a lot of like time, effort, and money into their deck.
Yeah, this is a project that has been going on for almost 20 years, I want to say. I might actually be the most shiny, pimpest, rarest decks in the entire world of Legacy, if not Magic. The only thing that's missing from this are summer dual lands, right? Brian, come on, step up your game. We need those summer dual lands.
Oh, wow. Check this out. Like, speaking of like Stormmaster, like this is a brainstorm. In response to the brainstorm, we cracked the Lion's Eye Diamond here on top. So the top card of the library has to be some sort of like maybe like Galvanic Relay or.
And he knows what the top card is from the initial brainstorm, right?
Yeah.
So he knows what's up. He takes the card and could be Galvanic Relay. And it's Besiege. Oh, Besiege the Mirror. As Brian is using his awesome The Epic Storm tokens, you can certainly get them from his website. One of the few decks that has like an entire website dedicated to it. Definitely urge you to check it out. If this is the kind of deck you love, check it out. We got Gaia Swirl. Lots of new cards here in action. And that one's going to allow him to play cards from his graveyard until the end of the turn. This is like a new school Yakmo Thrill, right?
Yeah, totally. I think it has exactly the same text. Usually it's a suspend card in green. You have to pay 1 green mana and wait 4 turns. But I think Brian is done waiting, right? Like, it's like we can maybe wait tomorrow, but like let's go. Like, turn 1 combo action. It's it doesn't even get a turn here. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
We already got the Storm count, which Brian is very nicely illustrating there with the tokens to take out Griffin. I would think that Brian knows what he's up against. I don't know what's like for you, but like if you get to these like very late stages of these big tournaments, you usually like are aware of what the people around you are playing. So that makes it even easier to fully commit to that line, knowing that Griffin is not going to be holding something like a Force of Foil. And Brian gets that beautiful, beautiful Japanese foil signed Scourge Tenders of Agony to take the first game.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, what a show off. What a nice greeting, into this into this 10th round here. Like a really nice turn 1 kill. It was really clean. And the brainstorm with cracking the LED in response is something that you can almost only see in Legacy, I think. It's one of those like little tricks, where you can turn your LED into like an actual Black Lotus.
Well so done. I guess as we once again go back to the deck list, what is Griffin actually going to be able to do against Brian's Storm deck here? And from what I remember, unfortunately for Griffin, there's really not too much in the sideboard that's going to help him out here. There's 2 copies of Deafening Silence, one of the best cards you can have against the Epic Storm on the play. But other than that, Endurance not exciting. Choke could come in. Like, you can sometimes buy a little bit of time, especially if you have cards that you definitely want to take out, like Swords to Plowshares. But I don't see too much. Like, is Force of Vigor gonna help you out? Like, technically there are lines, but we are really reaching here.
I think I kind of like Force of Vigor. I think at this point, like, Lance is so far behind in this matchup that you gotta throw in everything you got. Force of Vigor can... Like, Brian Cook is playing a Mox Opal deck, right? And Mox Opal has this requirement where you need Metalcraft for it to work. So if Griffin can point the Force of Vigor on like Lotus Petals and LEDs, maybe like on an upkeep or like mid-combat or some weird timing, it's possible maybe to shut off a Mox Opal or 2.
Yeah, there are sometimes ways where like you disrupt Metalcraft or That's the closest I can actually think of. I noticed one thing. So since Griffin is actually playing Sphere of Resistance, Brian might be incentivized to pay mana and play out his LEDs and Lotus Petals earlier on to basically conserve mana for a Storm turn. And in that case, Force of Vigor is actually gonna like completely melt the opponent's side of the board. But that's a specific situation that might not always come up. I would guess. So if I had to guess, Griffin is gonna mulligan for a hand that has access to 2 mana on the first turn and Sphere of Resistance. That's basically the highest priority. Like, even if you can make, let's say, a turn 2 token, Mirrored Large token, I'm not even sure if that's going to be good enough, depending what Brian's hand is. You need something to go along with that. I think that's one of the hardest decisions to make here, Kai, actually. Let's say Griffin is holding a hand that can make a turn 2 Mirrored Large token, but nothing else. Do you keep that?
Ooh, that's a close call, right? Like, Mirrored Large also doesn't have haste. Like, you need to wait another turn for it to attack. Might be a little too slow. Griffin probably doesn't even want to try to raise Brian Cook. It's just not a promising strategy, I think, at this point. And he'd much rather do a little bit of disruption, even though disruption is kind of slim, like given how few slots we got as a Storm specifically. And like this is crazy, right? Like we after looking at these top tables and like the top deck lists, like most people are not prepared for Storm. In fact, there's almost no Storm deck in the top 30, 60 seats. So
Yeah, you were talking about this yesterday, right? When we were discussing how to build Painter for this event, I mentioned that Mindbreak Trap not at its best in the format right now. Maybe you want something else, and part of that is that Storm is not showing up in full forces, and you might be able to just play something else, improve some of the other matchups. Okay, so here we see Deafening Silence in the opening hand. Is there going to be a white source? And it looks like there's not. Oh, I gotta send this one back.
Yeah, Brian was also, I think, on a 0-lander here. Brian probably looking for a kind of explosive start again before Griffin does like too much of his like Wasteland lock action, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's see.
Wasteland lock could be another minor nuisance that might add up to something like Deafening Silence or a Sphere of Resistance to make life harder for Brian. But this one is going to be really tough. Both players going down to 6. I think the lower both players go, the more it's going to favor Griffin, because then it's going to be even harder for Brian to break out from a sphere. But at the same time, Brian probably knows, right, that he's most likely going to be up against a turn 1 sphere here, because that's really the one thing that Griffin needs to do. And I think we saw the Force of Vigor we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there are Echoing Truths and 2 copies of Boseiju in Brian's sideboard, so we can definitely forfeit a little bit of the hate, especially
and one Echoing Truth
hate.
is actually in the hand of Brian Cook here, as we saw.
Yeah, really nice. All right.
Yeah. So as we wait for both players to keep their hands, Kai, did you know that the Big Mac was actually invented in Pittsburgh?
Oh, nice. I haven't had a Big Mac in 10 years, but hey, that's...
It was invented in 1967. I was trying to come up with interesting facts about Pittsburgh, and yeah, it's one of the most famous things. Somebody, as I would like to say, discovered the Big Mac. It's like, it's like gravity. You don't like invent it, you discover it.
Discover it. Yeah, we should get one together next time. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that one. Okay, once again. Okay, we got the Mox Diamond, we got the land to pitch, and we got the Deafening Silence to make on the first turn. On a mile to 5, that's gotta be a keep.
I mean,
and yeah,
it has to be a keep, yeah. And the Saga, it doesn't get any better than this, I think.
This is one of the best 5s you can keep for sure. Yeah, especially if you can find another land to start your offense.
Right. So Griffin completely empty-handed on turn 1. This is all he got. Oh no, that's not even true. He has like 1 card in hand, but like that's all he got.
Yeah, that one better be another land.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian just passes the turn, clearly signaling, hey, I might want to do something on your end step. As Griffin loams back another land that, fortunately for him, doesn't really produce any kind of mana. And passes the turn. Brian, not in a hurry. He's like, okay, it looks like I still got a little bit of time. We're going to see what the Urza Saga is going to come up with. What do you think? Potentially a Mox Diamond, maybe, if you draw lands?
It could be another diamond. It could also be like a Soul Guide Lantern, maybe to just as a cantrip, maybe. You don't. I think you're probably not concerned about the graveyard. Obviously, you could just let the Soul Guide Lantern sit and play for the time being. But there's no no specific artifact you want to get with this saga. I think
there's really not too much that you can really find here, right? There's no Pithing Needle that can actually like knock out mana sources, and which would be actually a really amazing play if we had access to that right now. But it's the Soul Guide Lantern you predicted, and probably most likely just as a cantrip to maybe try and find another land.
And looked like the Soul Guide Lantern just exiled the life from the Loam here.
Yeah, you gotta exile something. That's something that happens to you with Paint at times.
You have to. And it's interesting to see Loam go instead of the Ursa Saga. But maybe Griffin just picked up another copy of Loam.
The thing is, you don't really want to you don't want to dredge Loam here, right? You literally want to find an actual extra land from the top, like just getting Loam. Not really getting you anywhere, especially now that you predicted, right? There's another Loam in hand. Kai, have you considered like switching from Doomsday to lands?
I think it might be already too late for me to hop on the train. Like, to properly play, every time I see lands players play lands, it is I feel like they're playing like a completely different game. It's not the Ponder Brainstorm forcible kind of thing. And I think I'm just not patient enough for the card crop rotation. Dude, that card is
patience.
You need a lot of patience.
I've seen that card like do absolutely ridiculous stuff on the first turn. When I played lands many moons ago, I considered the deck that plays Ancestor Recall and Tinker in Legacy with Life from the Loam and Crop Rotation. Those were my two cards. But yeah, quite a bit different of a deck then. Now, what Brian could technically even do, but I don't think he's gonna go for that. But yeah, he's the Storm Master for sure. You could wait for Griffin to make the token and then just bounce it with Echoing Truth, completely messing up the mana base even further. But I don't think that's what he's gonna do. But we will see.
Yeah, I gotta say, like for like a mulligan to 5 and against the Epic Storm, like Griffin on lands, like this is not terrible. Like we have a Merit Lage token here. We have the Graveyard covered. We have the Deafening Silence in play. Yeah, can't really do better than this, I think.
And Griffin knows something's up, right? If Brian is willing to sacrifice that Lotus Petal to bounce that Deafening Silence. Oh, this is where the end boss music starts playing.
All right, it's showtime. It's showtime.
Second Dark Ritual takes us all the way up to 5 mana. 5 skulls hit the board. 2 Storm. What's going to be the next one? Rite of Flame, one of the signature cards of Brian Cook throughout his entire life, no longer in the deck. That tells you something about deck building. There, Modest, some really great new stuff. And he already knows.
Wow. This is Song of Creation.
Yeah, he already knew that one was on the top. That's like, he made that slick move, right? I got a 2-turn. No, I know it's on top. I'm just going to get into play. I love doing that with fetch lands.
Wow. Yeah, this is doesn't look like a legacy card at first, but it's a 4 mana Temur colored enchantment from Ikoria, and it's kind of like a, how do you say, like a future side effect, kind of like you may play an additional land each of your turns. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards, and at the beginning of each of your end steps, you have to discard your hand entirely. Actually, that's not even close to future sight. But
it's more close to like having recycle. If any of those boomers in the chat remember the card recycle.
Yeah. The one with the funny artwork.
Have 2 in the booth, apparently. Thoughtseize, like how good is Thoughtseize if it actually ends up drawing 2 cards?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Using our discard spells as draw spells.
But people are trying so hard with Up the Beanstalk, and you're trying to make their forces like a plus a cantrip, but Song of Creation is just like double the fun.
Double fun. The one weakness the card has that Brian doesn't have to worry about here is it's susceptible to like any kind of like Pyroblast effect. But here, Brian can go absolutely crazy. It's probably going to be really hard to stop him there unless he runs into something like a ton of lands on the top of his deck. But with the Storm already approaching 7 now, I believe, that should be the 7th spell. Brian is pretty close to just creating lethal of the
Yeah.
Tendrils of Agony in hand.
Look at this. Like every single spell, like just snowballs from here. Oh, look at his hand. Like every Chromox, every Lotus Petal has a draw 2 attached to it.
You know what I wonder? I wonder how many of those Storm tokens Brian brought with him. Because as far as I remember, yeah, the deck still plays a single copy of Grapeshot, so you might at least have 20 available, if not more.
I mean, like, what do you think? Like, what's the max on Grapeshot you can possibly get to? I think like 50 maybe. 50 is pretty high.
Like with Gaia's Will in the mix, and like you replaying your entire deck, and then probably also some lines that involve, I don't know if he has access to Past in Flames still. Oh, dude, here's Echo of Eons in the sideboard. Yeah, we have access to insane amounts of Storm if we want to.
Do you think we can go 3 digits?
He might be able to. Like, especially, you know these old Storm tricks where you play out all your artifacts, then you, let's say, Echoing Truth, your Lotus Petals, and you replay them again?
Yeah. You know, like showing off in your local game store is like one thing, but if you can show off in a maybe top 8 bubble match in the largest legacy tournament in years, then please go nuts. we wanna see Storm 50 actually.
Brian Cook's certainly not a stranger to showmanship. I remember when we ran the Legacy Premier League many moons ago. He made it a thing that never mind old stories. Brian takes the win, moves on to 9-0. Potentially able to draw into the top 8 of Eternal Weekend. He actually has his podcast teammates of Eternal Glory, Brian Corwell, also still fighting for top 8. So we've already been talking about how crazy of a matchup that would be to have that like maybe later on in the tournament. I'd love to see that. These are the stories that you get to hear at Eternal Weekend. And we'll very soon be back with more of this very last round of the Swiss coming up. We have a lot of people still on the bubble trying to make it to the top 8. Kai and I will be back for that round once more, so stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.